So good morning everyone, my name is Lalit Soni and you are watching Drishti IAS. In this live session, we will be talking about the Indian Express newspaper. We will try to cover the important articles. As such, if you have gone through the newspaper, you will realize that most of the article today will be related to your international relations. Other than that, we will be talking about one or two articles from history as well. Okay, so let's start. So we'll start with the explanation of the practice question which was given to you in the previous lecture. Okay, and then we'll move to the fact of the day. After that, we'll be moving toward the next session, that is basically know our constitution, wherein we have already discussed the Supreme Court part. Now we will start with the next part, that is related to your state governments. Okay, so we'll be talking about the state government. We have seen the union ones. Now moving further, we will be talking about these 4-5 articles. One is related to Quad Summit in USA and not in India. In 2024, this Quad Summit was supposed to be in India, okay, but now it will be happening in USA. We will be seeing why. Then moving further, story of Great Stupa. You know that we have a oldest stupa, that is Sanchi. Okay, so it was in news, the eastern gate of the Sanchi Stupa, that was in news. Okay, and we will try to understand that why it was in news, and second we will see that why this stupa is important. Okay, then moving further, NSA Ajit Doval is in Russia, so we'll talk about this particular thing as well, that what he has talked about over there. And in the end, there will be 2 articles for your own read. These articles are kept over here because we have already talked about this, and one article is related to one famous movie, so that would be easy for you to understand. You can go through them. Okay, then last will be a practice question for you, which you have to attempt and answer. Now when we are talking about the front page of the newspaper, here you will be seeing that the communist pragmatist comrade to all, Sitaram Yechuri, he died actually, and after a brief period of hospitalization he died. He was a prominent figure in the Indian politics when we talk about the communist parties. Okay, so from CPI Maoist, he was the general secretary of the party, and he has contributed well in our country when we talk about the time of emergency, etc. So he had a very good contribution at that point of time. Okay, then moving further, second over here is, you can see Jaishankar 75% of the disengagement problems with China sorted. We will try to discuss this article as well. And now here you can see in Berlin there was this particular Sanchi Stupa's eastern gate which is placed over here. That is a replica of the gate of the Sanchi Stupa. So because of which you can say we will be talking about the Sanchi Stupa, as I told you, that in Berlin there is this replica which has been put over there back then when we are under the British rule. That replica is not only the one, there are many such replicas which has been made and put at several places in the museums, etc. Okay, now because of this particular thing, we will be seeing that how a replica of a Indian monument went across the European continent. Okay, so we will talk about that as well. Then moving further, you will be seeing Naidu discussed early resumption of the direct flights with Chinese. Okay, so we will be talking about that article because we have seen that these visits are quite important recently. Before the BRICS summit, these visits are happening, so we will be talking about that. Then the practice question, the majority of the Amazon rainforest is found in which country? Ecuador, Venezuela, Brazil or Bolivia. Okay, we have discussed that yesterday in our discussions, that where Amazon has their maximum expanse, that is Brazil. Okay, option C would be your right answer. Okay, moving further, here you will be seeing that on the occasion of Hindi Divas, Drishti IAS has brought you a special offer, that is flat 40% discount on our all online courses, pendrive courses, test series and distance learning programs. For those who are preparing for the PCS examination, here you can see GS Foundation course, Hindi and English medium, and for RAS, UPPCS and you can say MPPCS, for them we have a flat 40% discount. Okay, you can avail this offer from 13th to 14th September, that is today and tomorrow. You can call on these numbers, that is 8010440440, 87501 87501. You can book your seats or you can directly click on the link which is given in the description and then avail the offer. With that, I would like to move on. Now fact of the day, the Tapi pipeline is a major infrastructure project designed to transport natural gas from the Turkmenistan. There is this gas field, that is Galkinish gas field which is there. From that particular you can say gas field, using from Turkmenistan, then Afghanistan, Pakistan and then India. So that is basically a Tapi pipeline. You can see here Turkmenistan, A for Afghanistan, P for Pakistan and then I for India. Okay. Now that concept actually started way back in 2009 somewhere. Okay, so this is still under the pipeline. Okay, now here you will be seeing it will supply gas to Afghanistan 5%, Pakistan 47.5%, India 47.5% during its 30 years operational period. Okay, now the pipeline is also known as the peace pipeline due to its potential to foster regional cooperation and stability. Now here you can see this is Turkmenistan. You know that there are gas fields which are present over here. So one is this Galkinish, you can say gas field, which is over here, and from where you can see from using Herat in Afghanistan, then here you can say we have Kandahar, and then in Pakistan Quetta, etc., and then in Fazlika in India. Okay, please remember the name of this particular town, that is Fazlika in India. So here you can see how it is moving from Turkmenistan to Afghanistan and Pakistan and you can say India, and that is why it is said that it will be you can say that it will be a peace pipeline. It is known as the peace pipeline because obviously regional cooperation will increase. But recently you know that the ties with you can say Pakistan are not really good, and then in Afghanistan when we talk about that Taliban taking over, so after that this you can say the future of this particular project is in doldrums, but still people are trying to get it done. Okay, so that is TAPI pipeline. For you, just remember that this is a pipeline between 4 countries: Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan and India. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now we can move for the next section, that is know our constitution. That is about, you can say, when we are talking about the 5th part, that is union government, we have already discussed it. Okay, we have discussed the important article. Again we are discussing the important articles and not all the articles. Okay, then moving further, part 6 today we will be starting, that is related to the state governments. Okay, article 152 to 237 are the articles which are dealing with the state governments. Now if you have understood the union government, if you have understood the way how parliament works, if you understand the working and power of president, then it will be a piece of cake for you, because obviously if you can understand president, then you will be able to understand governor as well with certain changes. Okay, then when we are talking about the parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha we have discussed, then you will be able to understand the state assembly and the state councils. Okay, so I hope that is clear. Now we will be starting with the you can say state government, and then article 153, that is talking about the governor's state or governor of the state. Now we have seen that India must have a president. Okay, similarly a state should have a governor. Okay, now who will appoint the governor, etc., all these things we will be discussing. Article 153 is talking about the governor. Then article 154 is talking about the executive power of the governor. Okay, all the decision of the state or by the government of the state will be taken in the name of the governor. You know that. Okay, so you can say he is the nominal head of the state government. Real head, if we talk about, that would be the chief minister, because he is elected directly. Okay, now when we talk about the governor, you know that governor is appointed by the president. Okay, and second thing is sometimes it is you can say alleged that he is the agent of the center. Okay, so all these things are there, we will be talking about, but the executive power of the, you can say, government will be exercised in the name of the governor. Okay, then article 161, that is talking about the pardoning power of the governor. We have seen that there are presidential pardoning power. Similarly, governor also has the pardoning power. Okay, but there are some exceptions over there. There is one change over there. Okay, so I would want you to go through that particular change. That is your homework, that how the powers of the president are different from the governor with respect to the pardoning powers. Okay, why I am telling you to go and check it, because if I tell you right now, then it might not stay with you, but if you put a little more hard work in that, that might be helpful for you to remember it. Otherwise we will be discussing in the next lecture. Okay, now article 213, that is the power of governor to promulgate the ordinances. We have seen the power of president to promulgate an ordinance under article 123 we have seen. Similarly, governor also has this power to make an ordinance. Okay, so we will be discussing all these things later. Right now we will be talking about the some special you can say features of the post of the governor. Okay, now here you can see when we talk about the governor, there is this eligibility criteria, that is he should be a citizen of India, that is there. age of 35 years, okay, and must not be a member of either house. He should not be the member of either parliament or the state legislature, okay. So, and must not hold any office of profit. Any office of profit is something from where he can derive, he has the position and he is deriving some kind of gain from that particular office, okay. So that is there, that is to avoid any kind of conflict of interest, okay. Then moving further, appointment and tenure. If you talk about the appointment of the governor, you know that it is appointed by the president, okay, article 153. Then one person can be appointed as governor of two states, okay, that is there, or two or more states. There can be this possibility. That was started with the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act in 1956, okay. Then holds the office at the pleasure of the president. Maximum time is 5 years. That if we talk about the tenure, that is 5 years, but he can actually go for holding the office under the pleasure of the president. If president asks him to resign, then he has to, okay. So that is there. Moving further, powers, if we are talking about, since we are talking about the tenure, here you can see ending the tenure before 5 years, okay. How can you do that? First, since it is dependent on the pleasure of the president can go for dismissal of the you can say governor, okay. So dismissal by president or advice of the council of minister headed by the PM. As I told you, our president does not have constitutional discretions, he has situational discretions, okay. So here anything which he has to do is he has to do on the advice of council of minister, okay. Now dismissal of the governor without a valid reason is not permitted, that is there, on the grounds of the acts held by the courts as unconstitutional and malefied, okay. So these are the grounds when we are talking about okay act which was unconstitutional or malefied. In such cases you can go for the dismissal, okay, and resignation by the governor. There are two ways, one is dismissal and second is by the resignation by the governor, who to whom he will give the resignation, obviously to the president, okay. Dual capacity, constitutional head of the state and representative of the union government, because here when we talk about the constitutional head, we have seen that he is the nominal head, and representative of the union government because president appoints it, okay, and he sends his reports to the president. Most of the time in the cases of the legislation also he will reserve certain legislation for the consideration of president. So we can say that he is the agent of the president, or you can say he is basically a representative of the union government, okay. So that is there. Now moving further, powers. When we talk about the article 161, that is talking about the pardoning powers. Article 164, that is talking about power to appoint the CM and other ministers, okay. So in case of no clear majority etc, so he can invite any potential person and then he can say that you have to prove the confidence. Second thing, when the clear majority is there, then he can appoint the CM, and on the advice of the CM he can appoint the other ministers as well, okay. So that is given in article 164. Article 176, that is special address by the governor. Similar to the president, he can also address the state assemblies, so that is special address. Article 200, that is power to withhold assent, reserve a bill in the legislative assembly. Now this article is very much important, okay. This article has been in the news for like years now, because most of the time you will see that state government has sent a bill for the assent to the governor. Now governor is not responding to that. 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 7 years, such cases are there, okay. In the case of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Punjab, there has been such cases wherein these governments has moved to the court regarding that the governor is responding to such bills, okay. Now here you can say article 200 gives the power to withhold the assent or reserve the bill for presidential consideration, or he can send back the bill. When a bill is sent to governor has such options, like one is that he can give the assent, okay. Second, if he withholds the assent, in that case he has to send it for the reconsideration as soon as possible, okay. So that is one thing, as soon as possible you have to send it for the reconsideration if you are withholding the assent. Then if they send it back, if the state assembly or the houses of the state they send it back with or without amendment, then he has to give the assent, okay. The third option is you can say reserve the bill for the consideration of president, okay. So these are the three options which are available to governor under article 200, okay. So that is there. Article 213, that is ordinance related power, we have seen that. Now coming to the Responsibilities. So we have seen that he will be responsible for the appointment of the chief minister, for the other ministers, advocate general of the state, members of the state PCS, judges of the high court and district courts. Okay, and he will act as the ex officio chancellor of the state universities. Okay, so I hope that is about the brief introduction of the governor. We have seen mostly certain things. We'll try to discuss the differences in some other session. Okay, differences between president and governor, and till then you can go through them from your notes. Now moving further and starting with the first article of the day, that is related to your Quad. Okay, you must have heard about Quad, and recently there is this book which has compared Quad with the 4 sons of Dashrath. Okay, Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, Shatrughan, we know that. Now the Quad members, that is India, Japan, USA and Australia. Now there is this book, Why Bharat Matters. Okay, or so this particular book, Why Bharat Matters or Why India Matters, this particular book was written by our Minister of External Affairs, or you can say Mr. S. Jaishankar. Okay, so he has written this book. UPSC has asked a question about this particular book. Okay, so that is why I have mentioned it. In that particular book, he has actually compared the foreign policy from, you can say, Ramayan's perspective. Okay, and there was this another book, that the India Way, in which in that particular book he has compared the foreign policy and the international dynamics with Mahabharat. Okay, so that is somewhere which is that is something which has been asked by UPSC, so I mentioned it. Anyway, now US to hold 4th Quad summit on September 21st September 2024. This summit was initially supposed to host to be hosted by India. We have seen that after the Republic Day we will go for the, you can say, this particular summit, but that could not materialize for some reasons, and then USA has stepped up. They have said that we will be hosting it this time. India can host it in the next year. Okay, so now USA will be hosting it in 2024 and India will be hosting it in 2025. Next year there will be a Quad summit which will be in India. Okay, now when we talk about the Quad, here you can see these are the 4 members, that is India, Australia, Japan and USA. So these are the 4 members, and you know that all of them are allies with each other, and that is why. And when we talk about the region here, if you see, so China is located somewhere over here. Now Japan has issues with China, okay, so, related to Senkaku Island. Okay, these countries, Philippines etc., they are having this issue that China is going for the expansionist policies etc. Other than that, rise of China in Asia is not favorable for India, it is not favorable for USA as well. Okay, considering that these countries, these like-minded countries have came together and they formed a, you can say, quadrilateral, that is a Quad. Okay, now they say that this is not a military alliance or something like that, it is just a you can say grouping which is talking about the regional peace and tranquility. Okay, so that is there. Now the US on Thursday announced that President Joe Biden will host the 4th in-person Quad Leaders Summit. Washington has taken the initiative to host the Leaders Summit, which was originally scheduled to happen in India. It was India's turn to host the summit, and it has proposed to hold it in the January this year around the Republic Day, but it could not materialize, and because of which now they have swept. India will go for the summit in 2025. Okay, now the Quad Leaders Summit will focus on the bolstering the strategic convergence among the countries, advancing our shared vision with respect to free and open Indo-Pacific region, and delivering concrete benefits for partners in the Indo-Pacific in a key you can say areas. Okay, so when we are talking about Indo-Pacific region, this particular you can say quadrilateral or the Quad is a a very relevant forum for India and as well as USA as well. Okay, now this is there. Now here you can see they are talking about just one thing, that is free and open Indo-Pacific region. Okay, so that is the agenda they actually put forward, but you can say that if you consider these 4 countries, you know that their interests are in alignment and they do not want China to rise in this particular region. Okay, so that is one thing. Now let's talk about Quad. Here we will be seeing certain things. Strategic forum comprising of 4 countries, that is USA, Japan, India and Australia, aimed at promoting regional security and economic cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region reason, a common interest in maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific, promoting the democracy, human rights and rule of law. All noble objectives are present over here, and discuss the issue related to maritime security, infrastructure development and the supply chain resilience. Okay, so that is there. Other than that, here you can see the Quad is seen as the mechanism for balancing China's influence in the region. Although its member have stressed that it is not a military alliance and is open to other countries who share the similar values and interests. Okay, so this is about the basic understanding and the objective of the Quad. And if we talk about the genesis of the Quad and how it came into the present form, here you can see 2007. Okay, on the lines of ASEAN summit, okay, wherein the Japanese PM has talked about this particular idea. Okay, so here you can say Quad was initially formed in 2007 during an informal meeting of leaders from the ASEAN. It was Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe who first proposed the idea of creating a Quad. Okay, then in 2012 the Japanese Prime Minister highlighted the concept of democratic security diamond. Democratic security diamond, this was the name earlier. It is not a, you cannot say that it is a precursor or the, you can say, name of the Quad itself, but it was an idea which was there. Okay, so that idea was democratic security diamond in Asia, which includes USA, Japan, India and Australia. Then in 2017, you know that China factor started to rise. 2017 we have also felt that there was this Doklam issue, and after 3 years we have this Galwan issue. So in lights of all these things, and we know that China is the country which was directly hitting on the US's hegemony. Okay, considering all these things, they have actually realized that now coming together will be the right thing to do. So with the rise of the China factor, the four nations revitalized the Quad by expanding its goal and devising a system that aimed to gradually establish the international order based on the rules. What rules? The international rules which was there, and you can say free and open navigations, etc. All these things they are advocating. Now India, Japan and USA, Australia held the first Quad talks in Manila ahead of the ASEAN summit 2017. Here you can say 10 years after this ASEAN summit, which has happened in 2007, after 10 years in 2017, they have actually gone for the talking, or you can say this was the first time they have gone for the Quad related talks. In 2020, the first exercise, you can say the Malabar naval exercise, which used to happen in you can say India's waters. Here you can say India, USA and Japan were the three countries which used to go for this Malabar exercise, but in 2020 Australia was also invited for that. Okay, so it was expanded to include Australia, marking the first official grouping of the Quad since its resurgence in 2017, the first joint military exercise among the four countries. Okay, so this is the first joint military exercise which happened in Malabar. Okay, then 2021 the Quad leaders met virtually and later released a joint statement, that is the spirit of the Quad. Now we know that for a fact that Quad is a regional grouping, Quad is a grouping in the Indo-Pacific region that is having certain shared interest and you can say ideologies. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now we can move further to the next one. Okay. Okay. Now moving further, from Ashokan times to now, Sanchi to Europe, story of the great Stupa. Okay. Now we know that we have this Sanchi Stupa, which is a important part of our history. Okay. Now this Stupa was built, or you can say the construction was actually overseen by Ashoka. Okay. Ashoka, you can say, commissioned this Stupa and the construction was overseen by his wife Devi. Okay. And when we look at the stupa that was originally built by the Ashoka, but there was this ornamentation which was done afterwards as well. When we look at these gates, okay, these torans are there, these were made afterwards. Okay, so there are various you can say times there was ornamentation which has been done over here. When we talk about Gupta period, when we talk about the Satavahana period, so there was this ornamentation which has you can say happened in this particular stupa. Now why this stupa is famous? Because it is the oldest one. Okay, as of now, when we talk about this particular stupa, it is believed that the relics of Buddha are over here. Okay, it is believed that some of the relics, you know that when we talk about Buddhism, the stupas are you can say constructed over the relics of the some parts of Buddha or otherwise some others you can say prominent figures in the Buddhism. Okay, so here it is believed that the relics of Buddha are present over here. Okay, now let's see what has happened with the you can say history, and what we will see how we having this replica of East Gate in Europe. Okay, now External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Wednesday stopped by the replica of the East Gate of Sanchi's Great Stupa standing in front of Humboldt Forum Museum in Berlin. Okay, so because of this Sanchi Stupa was in news again. Now looking at the picture, you can say that it was made with the red sandstone. Okay, it is a you can say when we talk about this gateway, these are also made of the red sandstones. Okay, and this particular stupa, when we talk about the you can say the replica which was there, I will show you the replica over here. So when you look at this particular replica, you can see this is also made of the red sandstone. Okay, when we talk about the original stupa, there are various you can say elements which were used in that particular. Okay, so similar replica has been made earlier. What was the plan? That they wanted to take this Toran to Europe. Okay, but it could not be materialized because obviously taking these are the single piece of stones, and then these are 3 beams of stones which are actually held over here. So it is not possible to carry it to Europe. So that is why what they have done is they have casted a plaster. Okay, you know that we have this plaster of Paris now, so they have made a plaster over here, and using that they have gone for the creation of the replicas. Okay, so these are certain things which has happened in the history. Now let's see. So they have made a 1:1 reproduction of the original structure at almost 10 meters high and 6 meter wide and weighing roughly 150 tons. Okay, so that is there. Now the great stupa of Sanchi, if we talk about the stupa and the history, let's see. The stupa is a Buddhist commemoration monument usually containing sacred relics of the Buddha or other you can say venerable saints. Okay, so basically when we talk about the Buddhism, the replicas of the saints or the Buddhas, they are actually basically kept in the you can say stupa. Now stupa is a hemispherical structure. Here you can say this is a dome like structure which is built on the relics, okay, whose origin can be traced in the Buddhist burial mounds found in India. Now that is one thing that we can trace the origin of these mounds in India. Before stupas as well, we have seen that such mounds were there. Okay, so you can trace this origin from there. Moving further, the great stupa of Sanchi exemplifies this particular form, commissioned in the 3rd century BCE. We have seen that when we talk about the Buddha's time, that is basically when we talk about the time of Ashoka, that is the time, that is 3rd century BC. At that point of time, he has started to you can say he has commissioned this particular stupa over here. Okay, this is the largest and the oldest structure in the complex of Buddhist monuments. The most recent construction in Sanchi can be dated back to the 12th century CE. Okay, or you can say 12th AD. We can see the most recent you can say development happening over there. So we can say that after Ashok, after Guptas, after Satavahanas, there was various times wherein ornamentation has happened in this particular stupa. Okay, now Sanchi is unique. It is perfect and well preserved stupa, offering a wide and educative fields for study of the genesis, efflorescence and the decay of the Buddhist art and architecture. Now here you can see this particular architecture, or you can say this is the Mauryan or Gupta dated architecture which is there. Now we talk about this as a Buddhist architecture because when we look at these torans, when we look at this you can say beams which are there, other than that when we look at the stupa, there is this parikrama path, etc. All these things are present in the Buddhist architectures. On the torans, etc., you will be seeing that there are stories of Jataks. Okay, all these things are mentioned over here. Now Great Stupa is one of the oldest standing stone structure in India, believed to have built over the Buddha's relics. Construction was overseen by the Ashoka's wife, that is Devi. Now please remember this particular fact. And there was this trading center, that is Vidisha. This was very near to this particular Sanchi. So that is why you might see that there are various merchants who has actually contributed, or you can say they have actually financially contributed in the building this particular structure. Okay, now gateways of the great Gupta. As I told you that original stupa it was not having this gateways, it was just a hemispherical dome which was there, okay. But later there was these torans and the gateways which were made afterwards, okay. So original stupa itself is a rather plain hemispherical structure crowned by the chattar, okay. So on the, you know, when we are talking about the dome, in the, you know, top of the dome there is this chhatri which was always there on the stupas. So that is earlier, or you can say originally, that was just a hemispherical dome. Over there was this chhatra, okay, and then ornamentation gateways or the torans were added later, okay. The 4 torans oriented to the 4 cardinal directions, you can see the one is over here, second is here, third is here, and fourth is in the opposite side. So that is over there, and it was traces back to the reign of Satvana dynasty, okay. And it is also said that these were the work of these torans has started somewhere around 1st century, okay. So that is there. Moving further, the gateways are made of the 2 square pillars. So see, 1 square pillar, 2nd square pillar, and there are 3 beams, 1, 2 and 3. These 3 beams are having depiction of different stories. When we talking about the eastern gate of the Sanchi stupa, so on the eastern gate there are 3 stories which are there, which we will be seeing in the further, here you can say, made of 2 square pillars with the support of the superstructure comprising 3 carved architectural beams. These are the beams, okay. Now adorned with the beautiful bas reliefs, sculptures depicting the scenes from the Buddha's life, stories from Jatakas and other Buddhist iconology. And there are, when we look at these particular artifacts, you can see that the art impressed greatly by its rhythm, symmetry, decorative beauty, perfect handling of the flora and plant motifs, okay. Now there are these amorous scenes which are also there. When we talk about this amorous or the sensuous scenes which are actually depicted on this particular torans, these are not part of the, you can say, original Buddhist ideologies. There were not such things which were there, but anyway they are present over here on these torans, okay. Other than that, other you can say stories like that are present on this particular these 3 beams over here, okay. Now gates do not, however, represent the Buddha in its human form. Earlier, you know that before the Heenyan came, okay, so Buddha was never depicted as a person, okay. The personification of Buddha was not there yet. So here on these torans also you will not see the personification, okay, that is there. Now the eastern gate and its replicas. So when we talk about the initially when these areas were explored, over here you will be seeing that in Europe the east gate is the most famous Sanchi Toran, okay. The Sanchi complex was abject ruins when it was discovered by the British officer Henry Tyler in 1818. At that point of time he has discovered, so please you can remember the name Henry Tyler. And then Alexander Cunningham, you know that he was the person who has actually founded the ASI. Now ASI has gone for the restructuring, or you can say try to you can say that revive this particular store or structure, or restore this particular structure, okay. They have done it in 1851 around somewhere, okay. And by the time it was revived, or you can say by the time the work of revival was started, there was various people who used to come over here in the search of the treasure, okay. So there was, you know, since it was an old structure, so there was this myths that there might be a treasure or something like that. Other than that, various people who has came and they wanted to explore the area, okay. So that point of time you can say that the much of the protection was not there. The Alexander Cunningham, who later founded ASI, led first survey and excavation in at the site, that is 1851. Then he has restored it by the time of 1910s. First time excavation, or you can say survey, has happened in 1851 by the ASI, and the restoration work processed, or you can say completed somewhere around 1910s, okay. And as I told you, till restoration not much protection was given. So there was various treasure hunters and the amateur archaeologists which were you know, coming over here, and some of them wanted to, you can say, take it back to the Europe, but they were unable to do so. So they had to make a plaster cast, and then this plaster cast they have made, and various copies, various replicas of this eastern gate was made, and then it was you know, sent to Europe and various parts of them. And one such copy has came to Berlin, okay. And recently we have just seen that our external affairs minister was staying in front of that. Now upper beam of the gateway represent the 7 Manushi Buddhas, okay. Now you know that before Buddha got the enlightenment, there are various other forms of Buddhas are mentioned in the literature. So when we talk about the topmost, they are talking about the Manushi Buddhas. That is, before Buddha there were other forms of Buddha, that is Manushi Buddhas. So that is depicted over here. Second, if we talk about the middle beam, that is depicting the scene of the great departure, when Buddha left his wife and home and went for the, you can search of the enlightenment, that is depicted over here in the middle one. And when we talk about the lower, that is basically talking about the Ashoka. The lower beam is talking about the Ashoka visiting the Bodhi tree. Okay. Ashoka visiting the Bodhi tree. So these are the three beams which represents. So please remember this. They might ask you that that Eastern Gate represents which of the following stories. Okay. I hope that is enough for the Sanchi Stupa for your understanding. Now we can move to the next one. Allegations of the crime are no ground for the demolition of the property, says the Supreme Court. You know that there was this bulldozer justice, the term which was there. This term was there in the news, and on which Supreme Court recently has said that allegation of the crime is not enough, or you can say it is not a way you can go for the, you can say, demolition of a particular person's or the accused property. Okay, so that should not be done. So alleged involvement in the crime is no ground for demolition of a property, cannot be oblivious to such demolition threats, inconceivable in nation where law is supreme. In India we know that constitution is supreme. In India we know that law is supreme. Such a country cannot afford such you can say things to happen. Okay, so that is there. In a country where the action of the states are governed by the rule of law, and transgression by a family member cannot invite action against the other members of the family. Now let's say there was this one person who is basically accused of a crime, but then if you are going for the demolition of a property or a house of that particular person, you are punishing the other members of the family as well. Okay, so that should not be the case. That is what Supreme Court has said with respect to the bulldozer justice over here. Moving further to the next article, which is talking about Jaishankar's you can say visit over here in Berlin. They have talked about certain things. Here you can see Jaishankar says 75% of the disengagement problems with China is sorted. Okay, here you will see 2 weeks after the Indian and the Chinese diplomats signaled some progress in the negotiation to resolve the military standoff between India and China troops along the LAC in the eastern Ladakh, External Affairs Minister has said that 75% of the disengagement problems with China have been sorted out, but the bigger issue has been increasing, that is militarization of the borders. Okay, no doubt the disengagement has started to happen, but still there is this military movements are there. Both of the countries are basically going for the deployment of the military at the border, or that is LAC. Okay, first time that the External Affairs Minister has quantified the progress in the talks after the 4 years of the negotiation. This and what remains to be resolved. Okay, sense of complexity and the difficulty which has been seen over here. So now when we look at the, you can say, LAC or the Ladakh sector, obviously there is the complexity because these borders are not demarcated. Okay, and again and again you know that China has this you can say aggression. They show this aggression on the borders. Okay, so this is a complex issue which is there. No doubt we have gone for the disengagement, or 75% of the disengagement has happened, but still military presence is there. Okay, here you can see both sides agreed to work with the urgency to double their efforts to realize the complete disengagement in the remaining areas. Peace and tranquility in the border areas are you can say border areas and respect for the LAC are essential for the normalcy in the bilateral ties. Okay, so that is something which has been discussed in the Berlin. Here you can see, other than that, direct passenger flights, these flights actually stopped during the time of the COVID. After that we did not start it back. Okay, so that is something. So our civil aviation minister has said that they are working on this particular line as well. Direct flight connectivity between India and China suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Bilateral relationship soared following the military standoff along the LAC in the areas of Galwan etc. in 2020. Direct flights between the two most populous nation has not resumed after that particular incident. Here you can see the civil aviation minister Naidu also discussed early resumption of the direct flights with the Chinese counterparts. Okay, so that is there. Now all these things has happened before math of the BRICS. Okay, so that is there. Now moving further to the next article, that is related to the Putin and NSA's visit. National Security Advisor has visited Vladimir Putin, and here Putin has proposed that he has proposed bilateral with Modi during the BRICS summit, which is happening in the October 2022, October 22nd. Now why it is happening, that obviously considering the Russia Ukraine issue, now since India has visited Ukraine and said that they want to be the part of that, that is one thing. Other than that, with respect to the Chinese engagement, now you know that Russia and China are getting closer, okay, and we are also having this disengagement process, etc. So they have said that dialogue is the part to go ahead. So that is there. Other than that, when BRICS summit is happening, and India has interest both in with the Western allies as well as with the Russia. Okay, so obviously there are chances that they will go for the bilateral meet. Here you can say 2 months after they met in Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday proposed a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the sidelines of the BRICS summit that is happening in Kazan in Russia next month. Okay. Now here you can say special and the privileged strategic partnership. Our partnership with Russia, that is special and privileged strategic partnership between India and Russia, stressed the importance of the security issues in the bilateral relations, thanking Indian side for the maintaining dialogue in this particular area. Now one thing is that, second thing is, when this visit happened 2 months earlier with the Narendra Modi and the President Putin, so at that point of time they have discussed various, you can say, agreements to happen or various developments they have discussed at that point of time. Now they will be discussing that how we have to go forward with that. Okay, so for that they have asked for the bilateral meeting. Okay, moving further to the next one, that is teething issues resolved, says MEA on Indian laborers in Israel. Recently Indian Express has come up with the 2-3 reports with respect to the condition of these laborers in Israel. You know that after the Israel Hamas issues, most of the Palestinian people are not there in Israel to work. Okay, most of the laborers were from the Palestinian side, and that is why they are facing a shortage of labor. And considering that there are certain laborers which has been, you can say, sent from India, okay, after skilled assessment which has been done by their own, you can say, bodies, Israel's body, they have came to India and then they have actually selected few candidates and they have sent it to the Israel. Now problem is that there was this report that they are facing certain issues. Okay, now here you can say the MEA has said that they are not facing any issues. Earlier when they went there, there were certain issues with respect to the language, with respect to the communication, with respect to the adjustment and the skills, etc. But you know that when a new initiative is taken, these certain things are bound to happen. Other than that, there was this skill testing which was supposed to happen over there before they start to work there, so that they can understand the work culture over there. So in that also they faced little bit of problem, but again now everything is fine. The you can say Indian laborers are satisfied over there, and even the companies are also satisfied. So that was something which has happened. Now why we sent the labor? Because of the shortage of the labor in Israel. Okay, and you know that India is a labor surplus country, so we have sent some laborers over there. Okay. Now moving further to the next one, that is WHO evacuated nearly 100 patients from Gaza in the biggest such operation. You know that Gaza, after the Rafah crossing was, you can say that particular crossing was there to go for the, you can say, this medical aid, etc. But the thing is, Israel, when they have gone for the assault in that particular area, they have actually closed the Rafah crossing as well. So now there is no, you can say, medical aid, etc. that has to be sent to the Gaza Strip. And that is why WHO they has gone for the evacuation. They have seen that they have actually came up with the 100 patients, and they are saying that there are many more which are stuck over there. And the USA is also saying that they are trying to make sure that they open up the, you can say, this Rafah crossing for the military aids, etc. Okay. Here you can say Gaza needs medical corridor. We need a better organized and sustained system. Over 10,000 Gazans are awaiting transfer. More than 5 lakh children in Gaza had now been vaccinated with the first phase of the polio campaign in the North Gaza. Okay, so that is there. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has said that the USA will continue to press Israel to do more to spare humanitarian sites in Gaza. Okay, so basically that is something which has happened. Now moving further, for your own read, there are 2 articles. One is recalling the epic last stand of Saragari. Okay, Saragari is the fort which was there on the India-Afghanistan border. You know that there was this movie, Kesari, Akshay Kumar's movie. That is basically the story of that Saragari. Okay, this is something which has happened over here. Okay, this is the story of certain Sikhs, which there was this 21 soldiers. the soldier stays back and they actually held the fort at that point of time. Okay, so that is the story of these brave 6 soldiers over there. So you can go through this particular article, and then moving further, here you will be seeing health cover for elderly. This is the Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana for senior citizen. We have discussed it yesterday, so if you want you can go through this particular article. Okay, in the end there is this practice question for you: who commissioned the construction of Sanchi Stupa? Emperor Ashoka, Chandragupta Maurya, Pushyamitra Shung, Samudragupta. Okay, so you can attempt this question and answer to me in the comment box. With that, I would like to take your leave. Have a nice day. Thank you.